My name is Karen Springs, and I am the drama teacher here at KCA and the director of tonight's play. So we have been working on this show since about the end of January, beginning of February, and we're really excited to get to share it with you tonight. We had a wonderful opening night last night, so if you enjoyed tonight's performance, you can tell your friends to come tomorrow for our final performance. If you could all do me a favor and turn off your cell phones, all of those lovely sounds. And there will be an intermission in about, it's kind of, the first half is longer than the second half, so about an hour and 15 minutes in, we'll have a 15-minute intermission. So if you could refrain from moving prior to that, it would be great, just because these seats make such wonderful noises. Yep, get it all out of your system now. Get it all out. Also refrain from popcorn and, all those wonderful bag sounds. Yeah. We have a wonderful theater, so anyway, I think that's it. Yeah, no phones, no noise, and we'll have a great evening. So enjoy the show.
Still in front, Fairy? I said, is their car still in front?
Fairy, Florence was speaking to you.
Oh, I'm sorry, Florence. I was watching the fireflies. What did you say?
I said, can you see if they've left yet?
I wish I'd been born a cat, so I could see in the dark.
I don't think I'll wait for her. I'm going to get a book and go to my room.
Does your jaw hurt tonight, Jeff?
Not bad.
Then stay a little longer. We'd like to have you.
Jeff, you've already invested 267 minutes in waiting. Surely you can afford an additional 10 cents worth.
All right, my statistical friend. My curiosity is good for 10 minutes more.
I wonder what she's like. Miss Willie says they're one of the wealthiest families in America.
Oh, that's bad. She'll have an expensive camera she can't work. Or rave about an artist I've never heard of.
Oh, cynic. Has money spoiled me?
Do you even have any money, Fairy?
Bags.
Let's not be prejudiced about money. Some of my best friends are wealthy. Hannibal, play something while we're waiting and help distract Jeff.
Well, you catch me tuned. What shall it be?
Surprise us.
How about a gypsy charda?
Oh, please don't play gypsy music, Hannibal. It frightens me.
Frightens you?
Terrifies me. I was stolen by gypsies when I was a child and rescued just as they were about to dye my skin with walnut juice. Well, I was.
Go ahead, Hannibal.
I hope she likes music. Maybe she plays an instrument herself. The harp. Oh, I hope she plays the harp all my life. Oh, I'm sorry, Hannibal. Go ahead. I was raised on the harp. My father, like an angel.
Jeff, what are you doing?
Oh, there's a book I want on the shelf. I'm sorry, Hannibal.
Fairy, get the book for Jeff so we can listen to Hannibal.
I'll get a chair.
Never mind, Fairy, I can get it.
No, Jeffrey. Climbing on chairs is women's work. Men have mountains. Which book did you want?
The Lifespan of the Ape.
People give the strangest books to this library. I never could get into Forbidden Tibet.
You know, it's amazing what standing above people does. I feel smarter than anybody in the whole world.
It's the red one.
Books are in my blood. My mother invented the filing system at the New York Library. She was the queen of the cross endings.
I'll get Jeff's book, Fairy.
No. Musicians shouldn't work.
Be careful, Fairy. Don't get dust in your eyes.
Wouldn't you like animal husbandry? I can reach that.
This time, it's gotta be the lifespan of the ape.
Here, goose it out with this. Lights! Turn the lights back on.
Oh, don't let me fall!
Please turn the lights back on.
Hannibal, get to the switch before someone is hurt.
Looks like Mrs. Patty's back.
Lights, lights, lights.
Please, Mrs. Patty, let us keep the lights on.
Some night you're going to turn out the lights at the wrong time and hurt somebody. Then you'll be sorry. I do wish you'd give something else up for Lent.
It's unfair to make the rest of us suffer to get you to heaven, Mrs. Patty.
Other people like electricity.
Now, you sit down at your easel like a good girl.
I must say you started us, Miss Willie. We thought you were in the front office.
For the love of Pete, Fairy, what are you up to?
I was just trying to get a book for Jeffrey.
With the violin bow?
I couldn't quite reach it.
I certainly didn't mean to cause all this commotion. Forget it.
No, Jeffrey, I'll get it for you. Everyone watch his own head. Timber! There you are, Jeffrey. You may take the bow, Miss Willie. You may take my hand, Hannibal.
The next time anyone wants a book from the top, Fairy, call me. Why, the whole shelf might have fallen on you.
Well, whoever heard of anyone being hurt by good books?
Enough of them, my darling, and I'd hate that to happen to you. I hate everything in the world. But most of all, I hate cold cream, hot dogs, codfish, crawfish, catfish, catnip, sheep dip, sawdust, subways, sewers, skewers, buttermilk, caterpillars, frictions, fractions, pins, puns, pens, policemen, and electricity! How much longer do we have to wait, Miss Willie?
What is she like, Miss Willie?
I don't know. Let's tidy the room up a bit. Fairy, will you put the Parcheesi board away, please?
They're taking an awfully long time in the front office.
Is she young or old, Miss Willie?
All I know is that her name is Savage and she gets the blue room.
I hope she's in beautiful. Competition exhausts me.
You sure tied that one in a hurry, Bingo.
Miss Willie, don't call me that, please. It's a pet name my wife uses.
I forgot.
And I wish you wouldn't single me out to kiss.
But you're the handsomest.
What would my wife think if she came to call and saw a strange woman kissing you? She'd explode.
She would if I know her.
Will you please try to remember?
I'll try.
Ting-a-ling-a-ling-a-ling!
Hello? Yes? Yes, Dr. Emmett. Right away. Hannibal. Put the dartboard up, please. Please, don't clutter the place, darlings. Let's make a good first impression.
Will we meet her now?
I don't know.
We haven't had anyone exciting here since that magician's wife. Remember? She was all nerves from being sawed in half so much. What was her name?
Something hyphenated.
I forget, but she had color. My relations were all so drab. Both my parents were albinos.
Really, Fairy, you shouldn't invent such things.
Well, they were emotional albinos.
Oh, Fairy, don't peek. It's so degrading to get on your knees.
Well, you get on your knees to pray, don't you? I'll say a prayer. Dear God, let me see something.
See anything?
Yes, I do. God was quick.
What do you see?
Someone coming out of Dr. Emmett's office.
Who?
1, 2, 3 strange people. They're coming in here. Let's hide in the hall and eavesdrop.
Is that ethical, Jeff?
Oh, you know we'll be sent out anyhow.
We could call it espionage.
Yes. Come, Mrs. Patty. We're going to spy.
All I'll guard the light switch. It's rude to let guests enter a dark room.
This is the last time I'm going to be a party to Peking Fairy. Kneeling simply ruins my nylons.
I mustn't get excited, or I'll get hiccups and betray us. Will you come in here? Dr. Emmett will join you in a moment.
Please tell him that if there's nothing more, we'd like to get started back.
Yes, Senator Savage. There are magazines on the table. Please make yourselves at home.
Well, what do you think of it now, Titus? Are you reassured?
Somewhat. It certainly doesn't look like an institution.
Not at all.
Mother will be content and happy here, I'm sure. It's a charming place.
I just hope we haven't made a mistake.
Darling, the only mistake we made was not taking steps sooner.
I don't like to be thought insensitive. It might have been wiser to keep her at home with an attendant.
That would have been disastrous.
You're hard.
Someone has to be practical.
No, you're calloused. You've married too many foreigners.
Samuel, darling, we've done what had to be done. Let's not quarrel about it, please.
Lilybell's right. This is civilized behavior.
I'm sorry to have delayed you. I was anxious to have Dr. Johnson question your mother.
This is quite the place you have here, Doctor. It's been a great relief to us to have found it so cheerful.
But then, we were sure your place offered the best that money could buy.
We hope you offer the best that experience can provide.
One thing I meant to ask you, Doctor. Will Mother be exposed to any danger here?
Not at all. The guests in this wing are in their final stage of treatment. They are extremely kind and cooperative. On the surface, most of them would appear quite as normal as, say yourself, Senator.
You don't say.
While we're waiting, Senator, I'd like to ask you a few more questions about this memorial fund of your mother's.
There isn't much more to tell. She planned on using it to give away the entire Savage estate.
The newspapers called it her happiness fund.
Was this indifference to money something recent?
I wouldn't say so.
She's always given money to foolish causes.
Would you mind being a bit more specific?
Well, there was an Italian farmer who wanted a box of soil from Italy.
Just dirt.
Mother spent $200 just to get it for him.
And then there was a flower peddler who wanted a tombstone for his horse.
He got it.
After father died, this obsession got progressively worse. Last summer, she chartered a ship to send 1,000 school children around the world.
Why?
She said they ought to go around the world while there was still a world around.
We stopped her just as she was on the verge of setting up this fund legally.
With a board of directors.
With a fantastic board of directors. Not a banker, a bishop, or a lawyer among them.
Whom did she choose?
A postman, a gardener, a veterinarian, and herself.
We should have known her mind was going the day she decided to step on the stage.
Oh, that! Have you ever heard of such a case before, Doctor? What would make a woman of her age suddenly decide to become an actress?
The unique is routine here, Senator. Nothing surprises us.
If she had been talented, or even vain, I could have understood it.
But she wasn't. She was always quiet, even timid. Then suddenly, this amazing change.
Grief did it.
But why turn to acting? Life has enough drama in it.
God knows.
Isn't that right, Doctor?
As Judge Savage says, God knows.
And I wish you could explain that bear to us.
Obvious exhibitionism.
Exactly.
She took a childish delight in being seen everywhere with that bear.
Anything to indulge this sudden love for notoriety.
Her entire conduct was a travesty of dignity and self-respect.
And sound business.
Could you tell me, Senator, has there ever been a similar pattern of behavior in your mother's family?
Frankly, I don't know.
You see, Doctor, Father remarried when we were children.
Oh, I see.
But it has never made any difference in our feelings toward her.
Well, I'm afraid I can't be of much help to you until I've had time to observe her conduct here.
You're the doctor.
And we know she'll be comfortable. It's such a charming place.
I wouldn't mind staying here myself.
This is no place to laugh, Samuel.
Oh, but we encourage laughter here, Senator. We think it healthy.
You do.
Definitely. It's good therapy. For, as Byron said, and if I laugh at any mortal thing, 'tis that I may not weep.
Of course, of course.
Yes, Miss Willie.
I'm sorry, Dr. Emmett, but Dr. Johnson won't be able to complete Mrs. Savage's file.
And why not?
He finds her a little uncooperative.
Then bring her in here, please.
Yes, Doctor.
While you're saying goodbye, I'll have a talk with Dr. Johnson.
Please don't go, Doctor.
Please, doctor. We prefer you stay. I think the shorter we make this, the better for all concerned.
She's vindictive.
For some reason, Doctor, she holds me responsible.
We'll have to give her more time to get over her resentment.
Will you come in here, Mrs. Savage?
Will you sit down, Mrs. Savage?
We waited to say goodbye to you, Mother.
I do not like thee, Lily Bell. The reason why I cannot tell, but this I know and know full well. I do not like thee, Lily Bell.
She's been chanting that over and over, all the way down here.
Your children are leaving, Mrs. Savage. Wouldn't you like to say goodbye to them? They would like to say goodbye to you, Mrs. Savage.
The fireflies are out. How lovely. What makes the fireflies light up, Doctor? Are they mating?
I really couldn't say.
I thought you'd know. Isn't this a bug house?
This is the cloisters. This is to be your new home. I am Dr. Emmett.
We might as well go, Titus. She's going to be unpleasant again.
Surely, you're not going to let us depart in an atmosphere of bitterness.
50 needles and 50 pins and 50 dirty Republicans.
She's determined to take the wrong attitude.
It's futile.
Well, time will take care of this. Come, Samuel.
I'll send more of her clothes down later, Doctor. I couldn't pack but one grip, under the circumstances.
Well, Sunday is Visitor's Day if you'd care to bring them down then.
My sister's returning to Paris next week, but we'll make arrangements. Good night, Mother.
If there's anything else you need, Mrs. Savage, Miss Wilhelmina, we'll take care of it.
We've a lovely garden out there. You'll be able to see it in the morning. When I was a child, we always said 20 needles and 20 pins. You added 50 more dirty Republicans.
It's a fault of mine. Exaggeration. It's stupid of me to try and irritate them like this. I just irritate myself. Well, I suppose it has to be exasperating now to be funny later.
Oh, I noticed one of its eyes is missing. It must have fallen out in the office. I'll check as soon as they go.
Oh, don't bother. It fell out last fall at the opera. I would have found it, but the ushers were so nasty about my lighting matches during the magic fire music. You know what this is, don't you?
Suppose you tell me.
It's a teddy bear. Surely you've seen one before.
Not that big.
Do you know what I do with it?
I couldn't possibly guess.
I sleep with it.
Do you?
Yes, I do. Are you going to talk to me as if I were an imbecile too?
Here, here, we mustn't be hostile.
Of course. You haven't harmed me. Would you care to know why I sleep with it?
If you'd care to tell.
I don't care. And I'll tell you. I get lonely. I'm too old to have a lover and too fastidious to sleep with a cat.
Then by all means, you must take it up to your room with you here. Would you like to take off your hat?
If I'm to spend the rest of my life here, I might as well.
It's a mighty saucy hat.
A 10-cent piece of felt and 3 chicken feathers. $85. Why economy should be so expensive, I don't know.
It takes imagination.
And the blood of pirates. But I wanted it. I wanted a hat like this since I was 16. For all the good it does me now. Well, I won't be needing a hat here. Maybe you can find some use for it. I'm not at all sure what.
You'd better keep it. You may still need it.
Dear, dear. My hair looks like the matted end of a coconut.
Oh, I don't think so. It's a heavenly color.
Oh, you should have seen it last year. It was bright red. Then, just to be different, I dyed it black with a white streak down the middle. I looked nothing so much as a skunk. Finally, I gave up and tinted it blue. It goes with everything.
It'll certainly go with your room. Would you like to go up and get settled?
Is it time to lock me up?
Oh, I wouldn't dream of locking you up. Did you bring a bag?
My daughter did. I wasn't consulted.
Well, I'll go get it and take you up. There'll be time to explore your surroundings tomorrow. You can stay here.
Alone?
Of course.
No handcuffs?
We have the honor system.
Honor system indeed.
Hello.
Miss Willie says the bars are only there to keep the world outside.
Corny, isn't it?
Oh! It's alive!
Fairy, you must stop frightening yourself.
It's quite harmless.
It won't bite?
It won't shed, lay eggs, or bark. It could be less trouble.
Well, in that case, any friend of yours is a friend of mine.
Perhaps we should introduce ourselves. You must be Mrs. Savage. I'm Florence Williams.
How do you do?
We've been expecting you all afternoon. We're so glad to have you with us. May I introduce Fairy May?
Say you love me!
But we've just met.
Oh, you don't have to mean it. I just feel wonderful when people say they love me.
Well, I'm sure everyone loves you.
You see, I told you she wouldn't be spoiled. Welcome to the cloisters. Climate best by government test.
Thank you.
And this is Hannibal. And this is our Mrs. Patty.
How do you do, Mrs. Patty?
I hate everything in the world. But most of all, I hate lightning, skunk cabbage, custard, mustard, spiders, blisters, girdles, mice, bees, keys, ragweed, chloroform, rhubarb, barnacles, bats, broken glass, eels, crumbs, drunks, tombstones, gallstones, salt, and thunder.
Why don't you like rhubarb?
Mrs. Patty won't answer you, Mrs. Savage. She'll only recite the things she hates.
Sweet, but stubborn.
Mrs. Patty stopped talking about 20 years ago.
Why? She got mad.
Her husband told her to shut up.
And she did.
She gave up conversation for life.
But she's only giving up electricity for Lent.
You're a woman of wisdom, Mrs. Patty. There's only one thing wiser than saying very little, and that's saying nothing at all. Would you like to hold it?
She likes you.
I like her.
Oh, you haven't met Jeff yet. Come here, Jeff.
Please excuse my left hand.
Certainly. Is it a toothache? Jeff's face is scarred and he likes to spare people.
Oh, well, you needed to spare me. I have to look at myself every morning.
Dr. Emmett refuses to let me wear a bandage.
Oh, well, we have to humor our doctors once in a while.
And now you've met everyone. We're a small group in this wing, and we hope you find us comfortable to be with.
But she hasn't met everyone. She hasn't met the Holy Terror.
Of course. How stupid of me.
Where is he, Florence?
Well, he was here a few moments ago. John Thomas?
I think he went out into the hall, Florence.
I'll see. John Thomas!
You won't hurt her, will you?
Gracious, why should I?
You won't object, will you?
Well, what is John Thomas?
Her son! What did you think?
Here? Oh, yes, he was born here.
I can? Oh, look, asleep on the floor. My husband warned me I'd be a bad mother. Mrs. Savage, this is my son.
You like children, don't you?
Everyone's, but my own. How old is he?
5.
He's big for 5 months.
No, 5 years.
Oh, I meant years.
Will you excuse me now? I have to put him to bed. He has the measles. I do hope you won't catch them. Excuse me.
That was exceedingly kind of you, Mrs. Savage. Not to notice anything wrong.
There wasn't time to explain, but you were like lightning.
Poor Florence isn't well. We pretend, for her sake. We hope you will too.
Oh, I will.
I think you should understand right away, Mrs. Savage, that except for Florence, the rest of us are free to leave here whenever we want to.
But we don't go, because there's no better place to go.
You're a very lucky woman to be accepted, Mrs. Savage, if I do say it myself. And I do.
Do be still! What is that?
That rude noise is a signal for us to go to our rooms.
It's the evil of the machine age. Perfect pistons and no manners.
Well, ours not to reason why. I wonder why no one ever quotes the first line. It's someone blundered.
Good night.
I didn't hear you. We never say that. It means there's no more.
No more of what?
Oh, there's no more of so much.
Don't let Jeff's manner disturb you. During the war, his plane was shot down in flames. He hasn't quite recovered yet.
Was his face badly burned?
Oh, not at all. Jeff bailed out. But he was the only one. He lost his crew. His scar goes deeper than we can see.
Surely you've guessed by now that Hannibal and I are the only guests here free to leave. We couldn't tell you that in front of the others. We pretend to save their pride.
Oh, Mrs. Patty! Oh, I'd forgotten you were still here! Oh, I didn't mean you anyhow! Oh, I'm sorry! Oh, I could tear my tongue out!
Will you excuse me? If I don't apologize, she'll sulk.
Fairy has the gift of the good for saying the wrong thing.
I should think it would take a bit of doing to apologize to someone who won't talk and sulks anyhow.
Don't mind Mrs. Patty. Just treat her like a clock. Look at her and see how the day goes, but don't expect an answer. She's happy at her easel.
Is she an artist?
I don't know whether she is an artist or not, but she paints
Portraits?
seascapes, which is rather odd because she's never seen the ocean.
I forgot to warn you, Mrs. Savage. Stay awake. If you go to your room, don't sleep.
What did she mean about not sleeping?
None of us sleep here.
Where do you sleep?
We don't. Oh, we go to our rooms. We've agreed to that in principle. But we stay awake. We never close our eyes. Look. When you go to sleep, today ends. And when today ends, tomorrow begins. Today, we're safe. Tomorrow could be filled with disaster. You won't catch us sleeping. Could anything be simpler?
Not much.
Today is the only certainty.
Hannibal, you heard the buzzer. Why aren't you in your room?
I am in spirit, and everyone says it's the spirit that counts. Remember, fight the night.
Did they all come in to meet you? Well, there was a Mrs. Patty, and 4 others who have no business being here at their age.
I quite agree. Do you think I belong here?
We're understaffed, Mrs. Savage. I'm kept too busy to have any opinions. I'd like to know what they told you about me. Was there anything to tell?
Did they mention my memorial fund?
Not to me. Then they must have told you that my husband's death affected my reason.
That would be understandable, but untrue. Weren't you happy with your husband?
I married Jonathan when I was 16. I loved him from the moment I met him to the moment he died.
Do you know what that meant?
I think so. Well, you don't, my dear. It meant that my only aim in life was to make him happy, to want what he wanted, to anticipate what would please him. And that meant that all the other things I wanted had to be forgotten. But surely you had no regrets.
None.
While he lived. But after he was gone, I remembered all the foolish things I'd always wanted to do.
What had you always wanted to do?
Things that would have shocked poor Jonathan.
Such as dyeing your hair blue?
That. And studying French and ballet dancing and people. As a girl, I was sure I could have been a great actress. So, with time running out and no responsibilities, I decided I'd be one.
But don't you think you waited too long, Mrs. Savage?
I certainly do. Had I been a fool in my youth, no one would have noticed the difference in my old age.
Oh, I'd never think of you as old.
Well, having kicked over the traces myself, and learned once again the importance of unimportant things, I decided I'd help others have the foolish things they'd always wanted.
And how are you going to do that?
By establishing the Jonathan Savage Memorial Fund, a foundation for giving money away in memory of my husband. And that insane idea has brought me here.
Well, you won't find it too uncomfortable here. Would you like to go up to your room?
Well, at least I learned one thing from my French lessons.
What's that?
What I am. I'm a canard. That's dead duck, I think.
Oh, surely it's not as bad as that.
Yes, it is. Someday I'll realize that a great injustice was done me, and that I was always quite sane. But here I am, and here they'll try to keep me, with my few foolish years taken from me. If people walked around the edge of the carpet once in a while, it would save wearing out in the middle.
Beautiful, beautiful. What would we do without you, Hannibal? You bring melody to the morning.
You could be in the concert field, Hannibal, if you worked at it.
Oh, you're so right, Jeff. Golden fingertips. I simply surrender to it. I'm a rag. Oh, do come in, Mrs. Savage.
I trust you had a pleasant, sleepless night.
Lovely, thank you. Not a wink.
You just missed Hannibal's recital.
Oh, I heard it. As a matter of fact, it's what brought me out of my room.
You wouldn't believe it, Mrs. Savage, but Hannibal never touched a violin until last year.
What makes you think I would believe it, my dear?
Was it something you composed yourself, Hannibal?
It's Bach, with variations of my own.
Mathematics lost was certainly our game.
Now, I don't quite follow that, Fairy.
Fairy knows that I used to be a statistician.
I'm straight.
Give him a fraction to multiply.
Oh, I'm afraid I wouldn't know if he was right or not.
My last position was with the government, charting trends. I was supposed to keep my finger on the pulse of the public and my ear to the ground.
A rather vulnerable position, was it not?
Very. I was fired, replaced by an electronic calculator.
I should think you'd hate electricity too.
No, but I did want to make money with my brains. So for the next 2 years, I tried to think of something that could be made for a dime, sold for $1, and was habit forming. I'm afraid my education was wasted.
I'm going to send John Thomas to Princeton. Their boys aren't very bright, but they're such gentlemen.
That reminds me. May we ask you a personal question, Mrs. Savage?
They're the only ones worth asking, my dear.
A little bird told us that you used to be an actress. We're bursting with curiosity. Is it true?
Oh, that. Well, if being on the stage makes you an actress, then I guess it's true.
Miss Willie, she's the bird Florence mentioned, told us that you'd been on the New York stage.
I wonder if you've seen you, Mrs. Savage.
Not unless you were quick. I was only in 2 plays. The first was Macbeth.
Oh, I adore Macbeth! All that blood.
I sent a pint of my blood to the Red Cross once. They sent it back.
I should think it would have been a novel departure as Lady Macbeth.
I can't tell you how much I agree with you, but they cast me as a witch.
Oh, but you're a perfect witch.
Thank you, dear.
Please, speak some witch talk for us.
But I didn't have any lines. If I did, it would have cost me twice as much.
Why did it cost you anything?
I backed the show. If I hadn't put up the money, I couldn't have played even the mute witch. But we made history. It was the first play that closed before the reviews were out.
Was it expensive?
Extremely, but worth it.
What a pity. Weren't you discouraged?
Bitterly. But man is by nature optimistic. If he weren't, he'd eat as young. So I decided I'd write a play and star in it myself.
You wrote a play?
I did indeed, with a courage born of ignorance and a plot out of wedlock.
What part did you play then?
Naturally, the lead. Not Guilty, starring Ethel P. Savage.
What does the P stand for?
I haven't the faintest idea. My numerologist said I needed it in my name for luck. He was right. We ran a year.
What was the play about?
A mother who murdered a man and was defended by a young woman lawyer who turns out to be her own daughter. I had red hair and tied my daughter's arms every night and 2 matinees a week. Just as the curtain came down and the jury whispered, "Not guilty." Oh, I've never had a better time in my life.
I gathered the reviews were good that time.
Well, they were sincere, but it didn't make any difference.
What did they say?
The Times said my play set the theater back 50 years, which couldn't possibly be true, because I stole the plot from Madame X, and that's only 40 years old.
Wouldn't you think they'd know?
Oh, but the Wall Street Journal was wonderful. They said I added something new to the theater.
Money?
Fairy, money isn't new.
What did Wall Street say?
They said I had a tenacious mediocrity, unhampered by taste.
But that wasn't good.
It was perfect. In our ads, we simply said tenacious and unhampered.
And you ran a year?
I'd have been running yet if my daughter hadn't come home and stopped me. Oh, I know I was bad and the audiences only came to laugh at me. But we both had a good time. What more can you ask? I do miss it. Oh, well. My turn is coming.
I don't think it was very nice of your daughter.
Oh, don't! Don't do it, please! Don't!
Fairy, what is wrong?
Mrs. Savage is going to read the
No,
newspaper!
no.
What's the matter?
I wouldn't do that if I were you, Mrs. Savage.
Please give it to me, please, Mrs. Savage.
Please, you mustn't read it.
It will only make you unhappy.
Now, just a moment. I know what the paper is going to say, so there isn't anything you can hide from me. I've just been waiting for it to happen.
Waiting for what to happen, Mrs. Savage?
Why, what it says in the paper, of course.
But we don't know what it says in the paper.
Then why were you trying to keep me from seeing it?
We have an agreement.
We never read the newspapers until they're a month old.
We find find we're much happier when we wait. What are you waiting for?
Why, naturally, we're waiting for... What do we wait for, Animal?
Perspective.
Peace of mind.
Security.
We believe it's better to read about unpleasant things a month after they've happened.
It's reassuring when you know it's over and nothing can be done.
My dear people, there's something important in the paper that I want to know about. And I'd like to know now, not next month. We're only trying to help you.
Yes.
Disaster is easier to digest when it's aged a little.
You're very kind, but I've made my bed and I'd like to know who's in it. We can't prevent Mrs. Savage from reading the paper if she insists. We don't know her well enough to be rude.
Florence is right.
Well, if you read anything unpleasant, don't tell us.
No!
If there's trouble in the world, it won't help us to know about it.
This is yesterday's paper.
I need today's paper.
Oh, it isn't here yet.
When does it come?
I don't know.
Is there radio here somewhere?
Yes, right over there.
Then we can catch tonight's news. Why did someone tell me there was a set?
You didn't ask us.
This doesn't light up. Is there something wrong with the set?
I don't think so. Of course, it hasn't any tubes.
It hasn't any what? Tubes. Mrs. Patty steals them. She hates electricity, you know.
No one knows where she hides them.
Why didn't you tell me the set had no tubes?
You didn't ask us.
Oh, dear, dear, dear. How high is that wall?
Much too high.
Easily 10 chairs high.
And I suppose no one ever leaves that great gate open. Oh, don't look beyond the garden, Mrs. Savage. There may be a better place somewhere. But if you give this up to search for it, you may not find it and lose what you have.
You'll like it here after a while.
Except in January. The room gets a little cold.
We like you already. Oh, it isn't that I don't find you enchanting, but we what?
Please don't say anything mean.
Oh, dear.
It's garden hour soon.
Oh, we have to go, Mrs. But where?
Garden hour.
We each have a little plot and we plant things. You can plant anything you wish, vegetables or flowers.
Last year, I planted birdseed to see what would come up.
What did come up, Fairy?
Nothing. But it was a rich horticultural experience.
There's a beautiful evergreen in the center. At Christmas time, it has lights on it saying, "Merry Christmas." Keep out.
Come with us, Mrs. Savage. I'll show you my delphiniums.
No, please, go without me. I have some serious thinking to do. I'll just stay here.
But the buzzer buzzed. One has to obey orders.
May I ask why you're doing that, Mrs. Savage?
Oh, I believe in wearing the carpet out evenly.
How prudent! I'm going to help you.
But don't you have to garden?
Oh, this is more constructive.
I'll help too. We must all do our share. But I didn't mean to start a procession.
Come, boys. Many feet make light work.
Why not? It's a refreshing change. Most women lead us in circles.
Go ahead, Mrs. Savage. We're behind you.
But, oh, I feel like the Pied Piper.
Let's see. Jeff, you step on leaves. Hannibal can take buds. Mrs. Savage can have roses. And the rest of us will walk on thorns. Do you know what we're doing, Miss Willie?
Wearing out the carpet evenly.
Oh, someone told you.
Didn't I hear the buzzer ring garden hour?
I didn't hear it. I think it's broken.
Fairy, aren't you ashamed? Oh, I wish I were dead. I'm afraid this is my fault, Miss Willie.
I didn't feel like gardening anyhow.
Oh, but you work so hard with your flowers, Florence. Do you want them to die?
I don't want anything to die.
That's so true. Florence won't hurt a fly. She catches them and puts them out the window. Flies adore her.
Well, I think we'd all better go out and garden. Fairy, share your seeds with Mrs. Savage. Run along now. Aren't you going with them?
I wanted to speak to you. Alone.
Right. What can I do for you?
A great deal. And it might be I can do a great deal for you.
Are you about to offer me a bribe, Mrs. Savage?
How did you guess?
Everybody does, at first.
Still, my offer's a little different. I have the money. I'll give you 20,000 to leave that door open tonight. 30,000.
But don't you like us, Mrs. Savage?
That's the most irritating answer to sound business offer, my dear. 40,000. You can be free of this place too.
Oh, but I don't want to be free of it.
50,000. You could see the world. Cairo, Mandalay, the South Pacific.
But I've seen Cairo, and I've been to Mandalay in the South Pacific.
You have?
I had 4 years as an army nurse.
Still, you could use $50,000.
Now, where would you get $50,000, Mrs. Savage? That's a fortune.
Never mind, I can get it. And in the current idiom, 50,000 is peanuts.
Oh, I believe you, but I'm afraid I have to refuse.
Then you leave me no choice but to burn the place down.
Oh, you wouldn't do that.
Oh, yes, I would.
Too many people here wouldn't know how to save themselves. You think of them first.
If you believe I belong here, why are you appealing to my reason?
I wasn't. I was appealing to your emotion.
Well, I'll get out of here quickly enough. It's just that bribing would have been cheaper. Now it'll cost me a couple of $1 million at least.
Good morning, Doctor.
Good morning. Is Mrs. Savage downstairs?
She just this moment went out to garden.
What is her state of mind this morning?
The usual pattern. She's already offered me a bribe.
What did she offer?
The highest yet. 50,000. The poor dear.
Did she sound confident?
Definitely manic. She talked as if she still controlled her own affairs.
Apparently she does. Read this. I've just been talking with your children. They're practically out of their minds themselves. The senator is leaving Washington at once. He'll pick up his sister in New York, the judge in Boston, and be here by tonight.
This is the most amazing story I've ever read. When did they discover it?
I gathered this morning. They asked me to confine her to her room.
$10 million. That's a typographical error, isn't it?
No, they had it all right.
But what could she have done with it?
As her son says, God knows.
Could she have spent it?
I doubt it. Will you call her, please? I better tell her what to expect.
Mrs. Savage, will you come in here, please? Dr. Emmett would like to see you. Are you going to place her in seclusion?
Of course not. But sometimes I wish there was a way of placing relations in seclusion. They're always much more trouble than the patients.
Do you think she knows what happened to the money?
If she does, she's the only one.
Is there any method in her madness?
Miss Willie, I find it harder every day to say exactly where reason ends and madness begins. For the moment, I'm going to have to take the presumptive evidence of her stepchildren.
Well, from what I've heard, her son's record in Congress would give any psychiatrist a nasty turn.
It certainly would. And the sensationalism of her daughter's 6 divorces doesn't speak too well for her emotional stability either.
Did you want me, doctor?
Yes, good morning. We help out on the switchboard. Miriam has been deluged with calls from newspapers.
Yes, doctor.
Will you sit down, Mrs. Savage?
I think I know what you're going to tell me.
Do you?
I see you have the morning papers. I wondered how long it would take them to find out.
Then you're aware of what you've done and of the consequences.
Oh, it's too early for consequences. May I see it?
The senator phoned from Washington. We can expect him by tonight.
Indeed we can. Well, I'm not going anyplace.
How could you possibly have spent $10 million without someone noticing?
Who says I spent it?
The paper says you did.
Oh, what do they know? I couldn't have spent it. I hid it.
You hid it.
In nice little $500,000 negotiable bonds that can't be traced.
Why?
I don't ask you what you do with your money, Doctor.
I'm sorry this has happened, Mrs. Savage. I'm afraid your hidden treasure is going to prove a great disadvantage to you.
That's because you're a doctor, and doctors never know the value of money.
Would you like to know how long it would take me to earn that much money, Mrs. Savage?
Oh, excuse me. I came back to get my violin. Fairy May wants music while she plants her seeds.
Oh, just a moment, Hannibal. You were a statistician. How long would it take the average doctor to earn $10 million?
Well, he'd have to start before Christ was born, work right up through the burning of Rome, up to the burning of St. Joan and the Savonarola. With time out, of course, for the Norman Conquest, the Crusades, the 100 Years' War, the 30 Years' War, the 7 Years' War. So he'd have to work double time from the discovery of America up to penicillin and bubblegum. That's without deducting for federal tax, state tax, city tax, school tax, luxury tax, amusement tax. You'd add 100 years for that.
Thank you, Hannibal. It's a great joy to be responsible for, Mrs. Savage.
Now, what's the doctor up to?
A bit of emotional blackmail, I suspect. Hannibal, would you guess to look at me that I'm worth $10 million on the hoof?
Never. The human body has only 20 cents worth of calcium in it, 5 cents worth of iodine, 20 cents worth of phosphorus, and well, even at present high prices, nobody is worth over $1.50.
So, you would value me at $1.50?
Never. You said worth. Your value is inestimable.
Hannibal, I like you. I like you a lot. You make me feel important. You make me feel like dancing.
Splendid. What shall I play?
Anything.
I am very good on the flight of the bumblebee.
Could anything be more appropriate? The bees have come home and found the honey gone. Someone is going to be stung. Play, Hannibal.
Are you reading?
Yes, dear.
Is it interesting?
Very.
I'm not disturbing you, am I?
Whatever makes you say that, Fairy? What's the matter, Fairy May?
Nothing. It's just that no one has said they love me this livelong day.
Why, yes they have.
Oh, no, they haven't. I've been waiting.
I heard Florence say it at the dinner table.
Did she?
Did I? She said, don't eat too fast, Fairy.
Was that saying she loved me?
Of course. People say it when they say, take an umbrella, it's raining. Or hurry back. Or even, watch out, you'll break your neck. There's hundreds of ways of wording it. You just have to listen for it, my dear.
My dentist said I had perfect occlusion. Do you think he was telling me he loved me?
What else? Why, the first day I met my husband, I was riding horseback, and he told me I had a good seat. I knew immediately that he loved me.
Oh, thank you. I've been missing so much. My dentist loves me.
Now, Fairy, what else would you like to have me clear up for you?
Oh, nothing. I'm sorry I disturbed you. Thank you, and forgive me.
and the boys won't help me. What's 7 and 5 and 4?
49.
Mrs. Savage.
It's my own system, Hannibal. I refuse to submit to the tyranny of mathematics.
Then I win.
I'll keep score after this.
Mrs. Savage,
Yes, dear?
may I interrupt you a moment?
Of course.
There is one other thing you can clear up for me. Why is it suddenly Sunday again when it was Sunday only yesterday?
What makes you think it's Sunday?
Well, if your children are coming to see you, it must be Sunday, because that's Visitor's Day.
It isn't Sunday, Fairy. My brood are coming back because they couldn't wait a week.
That should make you happy.
It should, but it doesn't.
I think that's a wicked thing to say.
Well, we have to be wicked once in a while to get God's attention. But if it consoles you, Florence, they were not mine. My husband was left with 3 small children.
But you must have liked them when they were little.
Oh, I wanted to make them my own, desperately. But they always resented me. Why, the first time I put my arms around Lily Bell, she bit me. And she bit me every day until she was 10.
That must have made you very high-strung.
What stopped her at the exact age of 10?
I suppose at 10, a girl begins to consider her teeth.
But the boys are always so much better.
Not always. They'd been spoiled by money. And whenever I tried to correct them, they'd break something I treasured to get even with me. It was a happy day when they went away to school.
School must have taught them something.
Yes, French. After that, whenever they came home, they spoke nothing but French, so I couldn't understand them. And I haven't understood them since.
But you must be proud of them now. The senator is quite famous, isn't he?
That he is, make no mistake. I'm told he gets more threatening telegrams than any other man in Congress. I believe Western Union lists him as a tangible asset.
If he's so unpopular, why do the voters keep sending him back to Washington?
They're no fools. It's the only way to keep him out of the state.
The other son's a judge, isn't he?
That's a distinction.
He's made it one. He has the distinction of having had more of his decisions reversed than any other man in jurisprudence.
Is the daughter pretty, Mrs. Savage?
Well, there's a picture of her in the paper. I can show it to you free if you like, and you can judge for yourselves.
Oh, don't show us anything out of the paper, please.
I won't. I'll just show you her picture.
We don't look at pictures either.
People are always pinned under trucks.
I'll peek first, to make sure it isn't horrible.
Well, even I don't say it's horrible.
She's a queen! She's wearing a crown.
A queen?
That's a tiara, Fairy. It's an old picture taken when she was married to her Slovak prince.
Let's take a quick look, Hannibal, just to be polite.
Then she's a princess.
No, she discarded the prince a good 6 husbands ago.
Oh, but why?
Hell hath no music like a woman playing second fiddle.
But she kept the tiara?
Indeed she did. I suspect she sleeps in it.
I don't know when I've seen a prettier tiara.
That dress is cut rather low, isn't it?
I don't like her. Let's do something mean to her.
Why, Fairy?
And I don't mean really mean. Something like putting her picture on the dartboard and throwing darts at it.
My dear, you're a sweet child. That's exactly what we'll do.
You wouldn't.
I need exercise, my dear.
Fairy, you're an evil girl to think up such a thing.
Don't you talk to me like that. I'm sensitive.
Leave her alone, Florence. I'm the culprit. Now let's see, what can I pin this up with?
Mrs. Patty has some thumbtacks.
Fairy, I'm so disappointed in you.
Oh, I wish I died in my cradle.
Mrs. Patty, that is the loveliest seascape I have ever seen. Do you know, I can actually smell the ocean. I believe your genius lies in your simplicity. You challenge the imagination. May I borrow 4 thumbtacks? Thank you.
It's setting a very bad example for motherhood.
Oh, do stop worrying, Florence. Don't you like surprises?
Yes.
Well, I want to surprise Lily Bell. Now, target for tonight. tiara.
Something dreadful is going to happen, I know.
Everybody to the upstairs study. Mrs. Savage's visitors are here. Miss Willie, may I stay? Please, I never meet strangers anymore. I'm sorry, Fairy, but the senator insisted on privacy. Someday when I'm ordered out, I'm just going to go out without saying a word. I have as much pride as anyone. All the way upstairs now.
How's the weather out there?
Stormy. Will you come in, Senator?
That will be all. You can wait outside.
I'll leave the latch off and wait at the hall desk.
I don't know what to say to you, Mother. For the life of me, I don't know what to say.
Polite people say good evening.
Deception is so unlike you.
I'm not angry. I'm just hurt.
Have you the faintest idea of the enormity of what you've done? You've sold control of 15 Savage Industries.
We'll have to sell our stock in Savage Brass to buy it back.
Oh, didn't you find out? I sold that first.
I mustn't get excited. I get lines.
What else? What else did you dispose of?
Everything in my name.
Were ruined. What did you do with the money? You couldn't have spent it.
I converted it into a neat little bundle of negotiable bonds and buried them.
When you say buried, you mean hidden.
I mean buried. As in a funeral.
In the ground.
I feel physically ill.
Where is it buried?
I forget.
Lord, grant my mother one moment of clarity.
Where did you bury it? Concentrate.
Oh, best thing in the world for taking lines out of the face, Lily Bell. I've got to do something about getting you a new eye. Do you know any place that sells bear's eyes, Lily Bell?
Give me that stupid thing and answer us.
Miss Willie, help!
Lilybell, wait. You're just antagonizing her. We'll get nowhere by shouting.
I'm sorry, Mother. Hold your bear. We forget that you're sick.
What we must make you understand is that's not the money that concerns us so much as the disgrace of all the... What happened?
She beat me.
Nonsense. Whatever mother might do, she wouldn't descend to bite.
It was a wasp.
If ever there was a wasp, it's the woman we call Mother. I know when I'm bitten. Teeth marks.
There is no need to raise your voice.
Does it hurt?
Of course it hurts!
Lilybell, we'll get nowhere by fighting among ourselves. Now stop it. We can't afford it.
You can't afford anything.
We simply refuse to be angry with you, Mother. Lilybell, apologize.
I will not.
Lilybell?
Mother, it's quite all right. I don't object to your biting me, not and mangle me to the bone. Gum me to your heart's content. Only tell us what you did with our money.
My money. You've already had your share.
The estate is ours. It's belonged to the Savage family for generations.
8 generations.
It's unthinkable that you should be the first savage to be found wanting.
Found wanting what?
The savage pride. Now, I want you to listen carefully to what I have to say. The estate has always been a sacred trust. We've never considered ourselves possessors of wealth, but custodians of fortune.
Don't do that!
Look! I just asked you to look! She's been throwing darts at my picture.
What of it? That can't possibly hurt you.
It's a vicarious form of murdering someone. It's just the most vicious sort of voodoo magic known to science.
Losing ground.
We were fostered by a werewolf. Every savage son of us.
My patience is exhausted. What have you done with the money?
I told you I buried it.
Where? Unless you tell us at once, you're going to a public institution. We'll not tolerate this criminal waste.
Oh, you've got me in such a state I can't think. I haven't a brain in my head anyhow. You've said so time and again.
Not me.
With all the shouting, you've given me a headache. I can't remember a thing.
What do you mean you can't remember a thing? Of course you can.
I can't. My head is pounding.
Titus, we'd better be careful.
Can we get something for you?
Yes. The only thing that clears my head is those powders I used to take.
Where are they?
I'm out of them.
We'll get more.
Will you?
Of course.
Here's the prescription number. It's from my druggist in Boston.
You mean drive all the way back to Boston?
Where is everyone?
Are you ill?
Titus, we'd better get the prescription number filled and come back in the morning. We won't accomplish anything tonight.
Yes, I agree. Lilibel, get the prescription filled.
Get it filled, Samuel. When we get back, I'm going right to bed.
Are you prepared to tell us what you've done with those bonds in the morning?
Pound, pound, pound.
I'll tell the chauffeur already.
Now we're getting to him. Well, we better go. We'll be back first thing in the morning.
Pound, pound, pound.
Come, Lilibel. I'll have Dr. Emmett give her a sedative.
Lilybell, psst.
What do you mean by
I want to tell you something important about the bonds. Close the door. Well, I want to tell you, and you alone, where I hid them.
Why me?
Titus and Samuel are fools, and if anything happened to me overnight, the bonds would be lost.
It was Titus who wanted you here, not I. Where did you hide them?
Where would you hide $10 million if you didn't trust banks?
I don't know.
Under a rock?
Of course not.
In your mattress?
Are you going to tell me or not?
Have you ever been to the Museum of Natural History?
No.
Very educational.
Mother, please.
Do you know what's on the third floor of the museum?
How could I?
The Department of Ichthyology.
What are you talking about?
Fish. In the last room on the third floor, hanging from 2 wires, is a big, dusty porpoise.
Well,
I stuffed my bonds in that stuffed fish when no one was looking.
I don't believe you.
Name me a safer place.
Only a fool would do such a thing.
That's me.
How could you get a package of bonds inside a porpoise?
Easy. Razor blade and scotch tape.
How do I know you're telling me the truth?
There's a simple way to find out.
You must think I am very gullible. I have no intention of hunting inside of a stuffed fish.
Are we to hold the car all night for you, Lilibel? Samuel is honking.
Let him honk.
Dr. Emmett will see you in a few minutes.
Titus,
Yes?
kiss me goodbye.
You bit Lilibel. I don't trust you.
That's ironical, because I trust you. I was just about to tell you where the bonds were hidden.
Surely know that I never wanted you here. I listened to Lilibel.
Will you get me out of here and let me alone?
You know I will.
Then I'll tell you. The bonds are in a tin box.
Where?
Do you remember when I went to Washington with a group from Actors Equity?
No.
Well, I do. It was National Ethel Week. We all had lunch with the First Lady. There was Ethel Barrymore, Ethel Merman, Ethel Waters, Ethel...
What are you talking about?
My bonds are buried in the president's hothouse.
I don't believe you.
You didn't believe Pearl Harbor until you investigated.
Why would you choose such a public place? Everybody in and out.
Well, I'm not very bright.
I'm the only man who can't get into the White House.
You should agree with him oftener.
How do I know you didn't imagine this?
There's a sure way to find out. Dig.
Oh no, I'm not gonna fall for that. You didn't bury the bonds there.
In the corner, under the petunia bed.
Titus, unless you hurry, Samuel is going off without us.
I'm coming. I refuse to believe you.
We listened! We're horrible! We're quite ashamed. We all wish we were dead.
We wanted to stop listening and sneak away, but we couldn't without making too much noise.
It's quite all right. It's no secret. If you read the papers, you'd know.
Did you really hide all that money?
I did indeed, for my memorial fund.
And now you're giving it back?
You're very generous for your size and weight.
But you didn't tell the judge where his share was.
That prescription was really a note saying to dig under the chimney.
But why did you hide it if you were going to tell them where it was?
What makes you think I did?
We heard you.
Foolish I am, but not that foolish. Whatever's in the chimney under the president's petunias or stuck inside that porpoise, I can assure you, it's not my little bundle of bonds.
Then why did you say they were?
I wanted to see to what extent they'll make fools of themselves.
Oh, nothing makes the truth seem so shabby as a magnificent lie. How splendid!
How do you know they'll believe you?
They want to believe me,
They might consider it degrading to go out digging.
but they will.
How can you be sure?
There are a million things a man won't do for $5. But there aren't 5 things a man won't do for $1 million. They'll dig. Oh, you startled me.
Oh, I didn't know anyone was in here.
And I didn't know you could play the piano.
I only play when I'm alone.
Oh, you shouldn't be so shy. No one is going to compare you to a professional.
But I am a professional.
Oh,
I made my debut in town hall a week before the war. Jeffrey Merrick. You see?
why, it says you were brilliant. Forgive me, Jeff. I should have known.
I was going to appear with the Philharmonic. I didn't. But I have the contract to prove I might have.
But you never play, Jeff. Oh, please go on. I'd like to hear you.
No, I don't like to be stared at.
I'll look the other way and listen, Jeff.
I'd rather not. I'm not ready to face people yet. Please don't insist.
I wouldn't dream of it.
Thank you. Can you keep a secret?
About 10 minutes.
Dr. Emmett isn't a doctor at all.
What is he?
A patient, just like Mrs. Patty.
Oh, do you think so?
For 5 years now, he's promised to give me a new face.
No, he's a doctor, all right. It says so on his office door. He wouldn't lie.
Do you believe a man is what he claims to be?
I'm a trusting soul. I try to believe the best of people.
It's best to believe the worst. If you believe the worst, then the worst is only half bad at best. And the best is no worse than expected. So it's best to believe the worst.
You know, Jeffrey, that's just obscure enough to be profound. What does it mean?
Well, it's simple. When a man says he's wise, you say he's a fool. When he says he's a fool, you believe him.
Well, only a fool claims to be wise.
Exactly, which proves I'm right. Dr. Emmett is a fool. He claims he's a doctor. The war was over 5 years ago, and where's his miracle?
Some things take a long time to heal, Jeffrey.
I can't wait much longer. I'm getting old. I'll be 26 soon.
And that's ancient. Why don't you forget your appearance and play anyhow? Don't condemn your audience before you've given them the chance to be kind.
Look at me and tell me an audience won't shudder at the sight of me. Look! Do you see?
I see. Nothing to hide, Jeffrey.
Dr. Emmett told you what to say.
No, he didn't, I promise. But I'd trust him if I were you. Give him a little more time.
All right. I'll give him 5 years more.
Fair enough.
Do you know something?
Not a thing. I'm awed only by the magnitude of what I don't know.
I wouldn't tell this to anyone else. Hannibal really can't play the violin.
No!
Yes.
Well, I'm tone deaf, of course.
I'll tell you something else. I sometimes wish I were.
Well, you're a sweet boy to pretend.
Poor Hannibal can't play, yet he does. I really can, but I won't. Don't you think that's funny?
Not very.
There's a rat in the hole! A rat as big as a mouse! Climb in here quickly, Mrs. Savage!
Oh!
Barry, what am I going to do with you? You've put me right off my coffee. You know there's not a rat in the hall.
But Mrs. Savage doesn't. She's bored here, and I intend to make life exciting for her.
Thank you, Fairy. You'll be pleased to know that I just aged 50 years. That puts me well over the 100 mark.
Oh, then we must have a birthday party. I'll make candles.
You'll sit down quietly and drink your coffee.
Oh, dear. I ate too much again.
You shouldn't exercise right after a meal, Hannibal.
I know. But if I wait until I'm comfortable, my conscience won't needle me.
Are you sure there's been no calls or messages for me today? Positive. Well, is it possible to send into town and get tonight's newspaper?
Well, if you'll serve the coffee, I'll go ask Dr. Emmett.
Gladly.
Here you are, Bingo.
Florence hasn't been served.
Don't stand on manners, Jeff. Miss Willie knows just how you like your coffee. I'll get my own.
Very well. Thank you.
You're annoyed.
You single me out for attention, Miss Willie. It's unfair and it makes me uncomfortable.
Oh, Jeff, I'm so tired. I forgot. You'll have to forgive me.
Of course. I forget too.
Mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the best dressed of them all? Fairy who?
Cream in your coffee, Fairy?
Please, do you think this dress does anything for me? I made it myself.
It's sheer delight.
Sugar?
5. There wasn't time to finish it. I put it together with pins.
Hannibal,
Oh, no thank you.
would you like to know a way to make that exercise enjoyable?
Enjoyable form of losing weight is yet to be invented.
Well, I know of an improvement. All you need is a deck of cards.
I went to a fortune teller when I was 14. Everything he told me turned out wrong. I never believed in cards after that.
Fairy, Fairy, Fairy.
Throw them up in the air
Why?
to lose weight. Now all you have to do is lean over and pick them up again, one by one.
I like that. It's tidy.
I learned it in a beauty course.
Thank you, Mrs. Savage. It's an improvement.
Wouldn't you think it'd be easier to pick them up sideways?
Oh, much. Man was made all wrong. His stomach should be in his back. When he bends, it gets in the way. His knees should fold neatly behind him instead of buckling out when he kneels. And I mean, why should his nose be in front? It only gets in the way when he kisses.
Oh, you're so right.
I guess God was in a hurry.
Well, Hannibal, what are we doing now?
We're losing weight.
Well, would you postpone it for a little while? Would you all go upstairs to the study for a few moments? I want to talk with Mrs. Savage. Florence, would you take the coffee up with you?
I do hate having coffee upstairs. It's so middle class. Where's John Thomas?
I think you left him up on the photograph, Florence.
Oh yes, he adores the classics.
Upstairs, downstairs, till I think I'll scream. May I stay, Dr. Abbott?
No, no, you may not.
Miss Willie tells me you seem anxious to see tonight's papers. Why?
Habit.
Here they are. It will undoubtedly please you to know that you've caused considerable trouble again.
Have I?
Oh, Titus on the front page.
Senator trapped in White House hothouse.
I've just been talking to him. He's exceedingly angry.
Imagine pulling up all those petunias. What will everyone think?
As a result of this, your position here has deteriorated considerably.
And my disposition has blossomed enormously. Anything about Samuel?
Oh, yes. Here's the Boston Post.
Dear, oh dear. Poor Samuel. All those bricks right on top of him.
Chimney collapses on Boston jurist.
Well, for some people, it takes a ton of bricks, you know.
How could they possibly have believed you?
They should be committed, shouldn't they?
Nothing about Lily Bell?
Your batting average for mischief is 100%, Mrs. Savage.
What a horrible picture of Lilybell. This would frighten even Fairy.
According to this, she resisted arrest.
So I see. Female vandal invades museum. Berserk heirs bites police. Now they really are fools, aren't they, Doctor?
What do you hope to gain, Mrs. Savage?
Better terms.
For your freedom?
For my husband's memorial fund.
They believe that money can be put to better use.
Of course, their own. Lily Bell spent over $1 million on her 6 husbands. Samuel and Titus spent as much to secure jobs to which they had no right. Is that better use?
They consider your memorial fund most unorthodox.
That's absurd. There are plenty of charities for foolish people in desperate need, and none for people with a desperate need to be foolish.
What brought you to that conclusion?
My own life. No matter what we have, we never forget the foolish things we never had. I'm sure if Hannibal had been given a violin when he wanted one, he wouldn't need one now.
That's quite possible.
I want my husband to be remembered with warmth and gratitude for a few foolish dreams that came true. I will not give up my memorial to him.
I want to discuss this with you further, but at the moment you have visitors waiting. You may come in now, Senator. I'll be just outside if you want me.
My headache's gone.
How dare you make a fool of me? How dare you?
You tried to kill me! You knew that old chimney would fall if I started pulling bricks out, didn't you?
We're really not a very bright family, are we?
You must be proud indeed to see the name of Savage held up to ridicule again!
Did you dig, Titus?
8 FBI men jumped me and pushed my face in the dirt. They thought I was planting a bomb.
Why didn't you tell the papers the truth? I did. Sleepwalking. Really?
It was learned today that the senator's mother, Mrs. Ethel P. Savage, the actress, was recently committed for irresponsible actions. Democratic leaders were quick to point out that this might explain the career of strange behavior in Congress by the senator. Do you realize what this does to me politically?
Makes you, French. Remember?
I'll never survive it. Never.
They treated me like a common criminal. I was fingerprinted.
Oh, I meant to ask you, Lily Bell, what is inside a stuffed porpoise?
Do you know what the papers call us now?
The Mad Savages.
How do you like it?
What happened to those bonds?
What happened to your dignity?
Where is my money?
Where is your self-respect?
May I ask just what you intend to do now?
Are you ready to listen to my terms, or do you care to dig in Grant's tomb?
We are prepared to compromise.
If that means you'll see things my way, then compromise is the right word.
I will consider effecting your release into the custody of someone for a period of time. It would look better for us.
And I'd be willing to give her complete freedom if she'd give up acting and lead a dignified life.
Freedom, as Titus can tell you, is the right to make the wrong choice.
What would we get?
That's what I like about you, Titus. No nonsense. You will each receive a reasonable yearly allowance.
How reasonable?
I shall be generous, but the bulk of the estate must be given away by my fund.
It's completely mad.
We might have the commitment revoked, only to have you playing a trick on us. Where would we be then?
Where are you now?
Get it over with, Titus.
Very well. Right to retraction, Samuel.
I'm tired of having my decisions reversed.
When I'm released, I'll keep my promise, but I warn you, don't have me followed.
Titus, wait a minute.
What is it?
I found the answer on the cover of this medical journal.
What are you talking about?
A way to avoid your compromise. But I have to see Dr. Emmett first.
Are you going to sign that petition, Lily Bell?
Titus, don't you sign anything until I come back.
Lilybell! What could she have read?
God knows.
Something to trick you. If you listen to her, you'll end up without a cent.
What'll I do?
Finish it. Lilybell has gotten us into trouble enough.
And be quick. Yours and Samuel's signatures will be enough.
How many T's in commitment?
3.
2.
It doesn't look right.
I'll write it. Give me a pen.
Give it back.
All it needs to say is that the commitment was ill-advised and request release. Will that satisfy you?
When you sign it.
Sign it, Samuel.
What are you doing?
We are signing this letter. Sign it, Lilybell.
It isn't necessary.
You'll regret this.
Lilybell, you have no right to act without consulting us first.
Oh, do be quiet. Read that.
Read what?
The article on sodium pentothal. It's, perhaps I'd let Dr. Emmett explain. Will you tell them what sodium pentothal does, Doctor?
It's generally used in cases of shock. It releases tension, removes the patient's inhibitions, and makes them receptive to suggestion.
It's called the truth drug.
That's not quite accurate, however.
But under its influence, the patient will answer truthfully. Isn't that so?
If they answer at all.
Now do you understand?
Did you want me, doctor?
Yes, just a minute.
Doctor, get some of this truth drug at once and administer it to my mother.
Doctor, haven't Daddy rights at all?
Dr. Emmett, may I say something? Surely you're not going to listen to these people. It's a flagrant misuse of science.
Doctor, I order you to give this drug to my mother.
Mrs. Savage, if I refuse, your guardians are quite within their legal rights to remove you from my authority. I am confident they'll find the means of subjecting you to the influence of sodium pentothal elsewhere.
Then let someone else be responsible.
$10 million hidden from use does no one any good, least of all you. It remains an ever-present symptom of psychotic thinking. This is your opportunity to prove that you're capable of making a rational decision. An intelligent mind recognizes defeat.
Well, let it be known that I was not forced to my knees by science. I'll tell you where the bonds are. They are...
Wait! We've come to the rescue!
It's not too late.
We'll stand by you, Mrs. Savage.
We just happen to be listening. Shame on you! And you! And you!
Doctor, who are these people?
These are my friends.
Weren't you asked to stay upstairs, Hannibal?
I want to protest, Doctor.
Who gives you the right to protest, sir? This doesn't concern you.
I love you all for wanting to help me, but Dr. Emmett hasn't much choice, as I'm sure you've just heard.
What will you do, Mrs. Savage?
Give them the bonds.
I think you've made the right decision, Mrs. Savage.
Are you going to tell us or not?
I'm going to show you. We're going to show you.
Oh, you'll hurt it!
Here's your treasure. My God,
She had him with her the whole time.
Hey!
What happened to the lights?
Mrs. Patty's here! Mrs. Patty!
Who turned off those lights?
You can't do this.
Turn those lights
Guys,
off!
Stop it.
Just a moment. I'll turn those lights back on.
God's sake, Titus, don't move. Someone might kill you.
Titus, strike a match.
I haven't got a match!
Who's this? It's me! Let go of me!
Someone, turn those lights on! Do you hear me?
In control.
Who turned those lights off?
One of our patients. Oh, Mrs. Patty.
Where's Lilybell?
She's disappeared.
My gracious, what are you doing down there? Somebody pushed me.
It wasn't me. I wasn't near enough.
They're gone. The bonds are gone.
gone?
What did you do with them?
I put them on the table. You saw me do it yourself.
Then where are they?
Excuse me, Senator. I'd like to say Mrs. Patty has them. Seems obvious she came into the room, turned the lights off, took the bonds, and ran.
Miss Willie, get Mrs. Patty. Notify the guards to stop her before she destroys those bonds.
Oh, I can't bear it. I simply can't bear it. I'm going to pieces.
This will calm you down. Would you like to try it?
Darling Mrs. Patty, come on, girls. Let's go for a walk.
What? This is simply a madhouse!
Yes, Miss Willem. Good. Good. Good.
Well,
All the wards have been locked off. The staff is alerted, and Miss Willie is searching the basement now.
but did she find that woman?
Not yet.
Then what, in heaven's name, is the good about?
We're taking every possible precaution, Senator.
That maniac has $10 million worth of negotiable bonds. If they're not found, they can't be replaced.
What will she do with them, Doctor? Oh, she'll probably eat them.
I don't know, but we're sure to recover them. It may take a little time.
Years, probably.
Oh, they were right in front of us, within our grasp. Why didn't you stop her?
How did I know the lights were going out?
It's quite possible Mrs. Patty didn't take them at all.
Of course she did. No one else could have taken them.
You could have.
Lily Bell is 10 feet away from the table.
But she's mighty quick when it comes to money. Why don't you search her?
You didn't take them, did you, Lily Bell?
Can't you see she's trying to make us suspect each other?
Well, someone else could have taken them. He was nearest to the table when the lights went out.
He was right beside it.
Well, what have you got to say?
I didn't take them. I don't like bonds.
The Queen of Spades! Someone is going to die! Dr. Emmett, must we have these people here?
Get them out of here! No! Don't let anyone out of our sight until he's searched!
Everybody off with his clothes.
My glasses too?
Fairy, just a moment. Mrs. Savage, please don't make this any more difficult than you already have.
And for heaven's sake, do something about this man's tossing cards around. My nerves are on edge.
Hannibal, don't.
Don't do this, don't do that, don't do this, don't do that. I understand that you have a lovely tiara. Do you sleep in it?
Oh, sit down, you unattractive creature. I've had quite enough.
I don't like you.
Fairy, will you please sit down and be quiet while we wait?
Very well.
Fairy.
Excuse me, I'm upset.
Well, Mrs. Patty, you have the entire staff searching for you.
Stop her! Don't let her get away!
I think you'd better join us, Mrs. Patty. We'd like to talk to you.
Now we'll find out where those bonds are. Madam, hand over those bonds!
I think you'd better let me question her, Senator. She won't talk to you.
Oh, yes, she will.
Oh, no, she won't.
We'll just see. Madam, did you hear what I asked you?
I hate everything in the world. But most of all, I hate revolving doors, cuspitters, fights, bugs, fleas, bumblebees, prickly heat, bats, gnats, pills, pots, pans, butts, bladders, worms, germs, pachyderms, and politicians.
What does she mean?
Weren't you listening? Fairy.
Excuse me, please.
Madam, did you hear what I asked you?
There's no need to shout at Mrs. Patty, Senator. She hears you well enough, but she's not going to answer you. She hasn't answered a question in 20 years.
Don't try any tricks on me, madam.
Be careful, Titus. She carries a knife.
Mrs. Savage, please. Mrs. Patty does not carry a knife. She's hostile, but quite harmless. Now, if you'd be so kind as to yield the floor to me, Senator.
Very well, but I want to hear her talk.
So do we all.
Mrs. Patty, this is quite important. I want you to nod yes or no to the questions I asked you. Did you take some bonds from the table a few minutes ago?
She did, and she didn't. Oh, this is exciting. I wish we could open a door and have a body fall out.
Mrs. Patty, look at me. Do you remember turning the lights out? Yes, you do. And do you remember a little bundle of papers on the table? Try to remember. Think.
Dr. Emmett, I found them.
No, you don't! I'll take charge of...
Senator.
Oh, look, radio tubes.
You said you found the bonds!
I said nothing of the sort.
This restores my faith in witchcraft.
Where did you find them, Miss Willie?
In the basement, in the hot air duct leading up to Fairy's room.
I told you I was cold all winter, and you wouldn't believe me.
I hold you completely responsible for this fiasco, Doctor.
Just what do you suggest that I do, Senator?
Search that woman. She may have hidden the bonds on her person.
I'm afraid this is going to present a problem.
Then search everyone else while we concentrate on making her talk.
Very well. Will you take Mrs. Savage to her room and search her, please?
No, take me! I'm the youngest and I'm dressed quickest. Or do you want to draw straws?
You first, Fairy. I don't want to miss anything.
Will you come with me, Fairy?
Oh, yes. Do you know, I was once asked to play Lady Godiva for the Elks pageant, but I didn't. My mother was afraid of so many elks.
Mrs. Patty, wouldn't you like to save us a lot of trouble?
Haven't you some kind of threat you resort to here?
I don't threaten my patients. Mrs. Patty, look at me.
The truth drug!
Of course. Use the truth drug on her. Then we can find out where those bonds are.
I'm afraid it's out of the question. I'd have to have her guardian's consent.
Very well. We'll get it. Who is her guardian?
Her husband,
Where is he?
Japan.
Well, in his absence, haven't you the authority to act?
We've no proof that she took them yet.
I still think Lilybell's your girl.
Will you stop saying that?
Dr. Emmett,
Yes, Jeff?
since Mrs. Savage can't have her bonds anyhow, I think I can help you.
Yes.
Mrs. Patty didn't take them.
How do you know?
Because I took them.
He's the thief. I knew we were being tricked. Hand them over, young man.
I can't.
Did you take them, Jeffrey?
Yes, sir.
Then what did you do with them?
I've searched Fairy, Doctor. She doesn't have them.
Speak up.
I threw them out the window.
Go outside, quickly tied, as we'll watch from the window.
Stop! Parcheesi, the Royal Game of India.
But, Jeff, you couldn't have thrown them out the window. The window's closed.
Oh.
It's stuck.
What do you mean by misleading us?
Get off of him, you stupid ox!
He said he had the bonds.
Well, he doesn't. I happen to know he doesn't.
And how do you happen to know this?
It's none of your business.
How do you know, Miss Willie?
Because I had my arms around Jeff when the lights went out. I wanted to protect him from getting hurt.
Thank you, Miss Willie.
But she didn't. That's not true. I took them. No one else.
Dr. Emmett! Miss Willie, something awful is happening! There's a fire upstairs with flames this high!
Fairy, you mustn't. We've company.
Well, they were this high at least.
Fairy, will you please come in and sit there quietly?
But there's a fire upstairs, please believe me. There's a fire upstairs.
Where?
In the bathtub.
Fairy, sit down.
I can't. I'm full of pins.
Jeff, if you did take the bonds, where did you put them?
I told you, he couldn't have taken them.
Of course he couldn't have. If anyone should know that, I should.
Now I suppose you took them.
I confess everything.
There's a fire upstairs.
There's a conspiracy down here.
Where are they, Florence?
I won't tell you.
These people are trying to deceive us.
I have committed this theft with full knowledge of the stigma involved.
Something's burning upstairs.
You better search her.
Greedy little man.
Will you take Florence to her room and search her carefully?
Florence, will you come with me?
I'll never tell, Mrs. Savage. Even if they put me in solitary confinement and cut off all my hair.
It's a waste of time to search dear Florence.
Now I suppose you took them.
No. But I know who did.
I know a fire when I see one.
Who did, Hannibal?
It wasn't Mrs. Patty.
Who was it?
It wasn't Florence either.
I don't want to know who it wasn't. I want to know who was it.
Is that good grammar?
If you ask a Mohammedan what God is, he'll say all the things that he isn't. It's easier than saying what he is.
And one of the things he isn't on your side.
Hannibal, if you know who took the bonds, will you tell us?
I'm not sure who it was, but I know it was a woman, and I know it wasn't Mrs. Patty.
Oh, fiddle! Let the house burn!
How do you know?
A woman pushed me out of the way to get the bonds.
How do you know it was a woman?
Really, Titus?
How do you know it's not Mrs. Patty?
She doesn't wear perfume.
Lilybell bathes in it.
I was nowhere near the table.
Could you identify the scent?
I think so.
I use gardenia. What do you use, Fairy?
No name. I make my own.
Hannibal, smell Lilybell.
Titus, I won't tolerate this. They're making fools of us for their own amusement.
Smell anything, Hannibal?
Yes!
What?
Smoke.
High time!
I must be losing my mind. I smell smoke too.
Dr. Abbott! I found a fire in Mrs. Patty's bathtub.
I don't think I'll speak to anyone.
In her bathtub?
Yes. I'm afraid it's the bonds. Or what's left of them.
Oh, no! No!
Let me see. Why, there's no way I'm telling what these are.
Mrs. Patty, did you take those bonds to your room and set fire to them?
Senator, here's a part of something that didn't burn. Can you tell what it is?
It's the burnt end of a $500,000 bond.
Are you sure? Mrs. Savage, can you identify this?
Well, the treasure hunt is over. It's all that's left of $10 million.
I should have told a lie. Then someone would have believed me.
Yes, I'm sorry, Fairy. I should have believed you anyhow. Isn't there some way of having them replaced, Senator?
There isn't.
They can't be gone. They just can't.
You miserable, useless creature! Do you know what you've cost us?
Let her alone. Never mind, Mrs. Petty.
I've stood for as much bullying of my patients as I intend to. Now, if you'd be so kind as to leave at once.
What about the burnt piece? Isn't it worth anything?
Nothing. I hold you responsible, Doctor.
I can't be poor. I don't know how.
It's all right, Lilybell. We'll survive. We always have. I am still a senator.
Lilybell, I never intended it to end like this. Believe me. Take me home, Titus. Please. Titus,
Yes,
what happens to me now?
you have nothing to fear. We would never let you be sent to a public institution.
We are savages.
Goodbye.
We say goodbye to people we don't want to see again.
Oh, please don't cry, Mrs. Patty. I'm sure you hate tears too.
Maybe she thinks her tub is cracked.
Did you think you could change them, Mrs. Savage?
No one changes people. One makes changes people learn to accept. I had hoped to make them look like fools, so they might look with understanding on the fools of good heart.
And who are the fools of good heart, Mrs. Savage?
I'd say those who gamble on people and invest in kindness. Those who doubt that position means privilege or manners mean morals.
And, of course, the rebels, with no fear of failure.
That makes very good sense.
And justifies my being here?
Would you like to leave?
They would never let me go.
They have nothing to say about it. No patient's commitment here is final until I have made my decision. And I find no valid reason for your remaining.
Then I'm free?
Well, I could let you go on my own authority at once, but let me get the state medical inspector on the phone. Then I'll let you know definitely.
And I'll go pack your bags, just in case. We can always unpack again.
You hate us! Oh, why do you say that, Fairy?
You want to leave us.
Oh, Fairy, I must.
Is someone waiting for you?
No,
Does someone need you?
no.
But you can't leave. I haven't had time to get you a going away present. Maybe I could find you a suitable present anyhow. If you won't be fussy, I'll go look.
I'd like to see what I can find for you too, Mrs. Savage. Will you wait?
Oh, fine. Come on, everybody. Let's see what we can find.
I have something I just remembered.
Don't you leave before we get back now, or you won't get anything.
I'll try to find something useless. I do abhor practical gifts.
There's nothing in my room you'd want, Mrs. Savage. But I have something on me that I prize. My old class ring. Inside it says, "Let there be light." Something Mrs. Patty would hate.
No, Hannibal, I couldn't take the ring off your finger.
Oh, but I insist. Of course, it has no value as gold goes, but as blood goes, it's a statistical treasure. My heart has pumped blood through this finger every 2 minutes for the past 10 years. That adds up to roughly 100,000 gallons of blood.
It's too much, Hannibal.
Oh, not at all. Not at all. But I don't seem to be able to get it off.
Keep it, Hannibal.
I deeply appreciate the offer, the sentiment, and the statistics.
My finger's gotten too fat on either side of the ring.
Never mind, Hannibal. You've had it with you for so long, it's become a part of you.
Mr. Savage! I'm all out of breath. Feel my heart.
Why, very dear.
But I found something. I hope you didn't expect much, because then you won't be disappointed.
I won't be disappointed.
I couldn't find anything to wrap it in except Kleenex. You can feel my heart too, Hannibal.
Thank you. About 104 beats to the minute, I'd say.
How very nice.
What is it?
It's a handkerchief.
Oh no, it's a napkin. So many places serve paper napkins, but they blot or smear.
Bless you, Fairy. I'll take it with me whenever I'm invited out.
Look, it even says the cloisters on it. Wasn't that lucky?
Oh, Fairy found something first. What did she give you?
A hand-picked napkin.
Then it fits in perfectly with my present. It's practical after all. I hope you don't mind.
Florence, you shouldn't have.
What is it?
A salt shaker.
And full of salt, too. It's engraved. It says the cloisters on it.
You've gone to too much trouble.
Oh, it was nothing.
Is it sterling?
Fairy dear, I wouldn't dream of giving Mrs. Savage anything that wasn't sterling.
Oh, it's dented.
Really, Fairy? Dents give an antique character.
Indeed they do.
Well, I'm not going to say goodbye. I can't stand goodbyes. I don't recognize them.
You didn't expect us to say goodbye, did you?
I didn't even expect a salt shaker.
Well, how do you do, Mrs. Savage? We've so looked forward to having you.
We're glad you're here at last. Make yourself at home.
I almost forgot. John Thomas asked me to give you something. He was afraid you'd catch his measles if he delivered it himself. Come, Fairy, let's let's pretend it's garden hour. Excuse us, please. We have to dig weeds. Take an umbrella. It's raining.
Well, Jeff, what did you bring?
Just a book, but I hope you enjoy it.
What is it?
The Lifespan of the Ape. Do you know, I've never read it.
I was lucky, wasn't I?
I'll read it tonight.
Oh, hello, Mrs. Patty. We thought you'd forgotten us.
What did you bring, Mrs. Patty?
Now, how did you know this is just what I needed?
May I see it?
A genuine mother-of-pearl button. I'll sew it on at once.
I think it's intended to make an eye for the bear.
Well, bless your angry heart. Why, of course. We both thank you. He's hated having only one eye.
I hate everything in the world. I hate everything in the world. I hate everything in the world but you. And I love you. And I wish you wouldn't leave us.
Why, she said she loved me.
Well,
Aren't you amazed?
Why? We knew it all along.
Yes, but she spoke.
She had to say it.
well, Jeff, shall we see what the girls are up to? It's a lovely night, and everyone's polite. Watch out. Don't break your neck.
You have a good seat.
Well, I think I have everything. Here's your $85 hat. I told you you'd need it again.
My beautiful and foolish hat.
You know, I think you've been wearing it backwards.
You know, I think I have. It's good to be straightened out.
Where did everybody go?
They gave me going away presents and then refused to say goodbye.
I'll bet I can guess what they gave you.
No, you can't. Mrs. Patty gave me an eye with which to see myself. Florence, a grain of salt to take with what I see.
That's nice. And Fairy?
A memory of loveliness.
I'm afraid to most people, she wouldn't seem a lovely girl.
But she wears her plainness with great beauty.
And Jeff?
The Book of Job.
Nothing from Hannibal?
I'd say he gave me an appreciation for music I never had before.
Well, I have a little something for you too.
You behave yourself.
It isn't much.
It better not be. My bonds!
Oh, except for the corner of one that I had to burn with newspapers to make it look convincing.
Wherever did you find them?
I didn't find them. I stole them when the lights went out.
Why?
I'm not sure.
Don't tell me you're a kleptomaniac.
It was too quick to think. What bothers me is that after I took them, I toyed with the idea of keeping them.
That's a normal impulse. What stopped you?
What Jeff might think.
My dear, you must get out of this place. That kind of thinking isn't good for you.
Oh, but surely you knew Jeff was my husband, didn't you?
I certainly did not.
Well, he is. I want to be here when he recovers. And do you know why I didn't keep the money? Pure selfishness. I want to do everything for him myself. Surely you understand that.
The only thing I don't understand is how I could have ever felt so sorry for myself. Isn't there something about no fool like a you-know-what?
Something, but it doesn't apply to you.
Does anyone else know about these?
I told Dr. Emmett.
But whether you want it or not, you're both going to hear from my memorial fund.
Thank you.
I talked to the medical examiner.
Yes?
The station wagon is outside, ready to take you wherever you want to go. Will you take Mrs. Savage's back to the car?
Yes, doctor.
I have a few papers for you to sign, Mrs. Savage. Then you're free to go.
Oh, I must be out of my mind. Really. I don't want to go.
You mean you'd prefer to leave tomorrow?
I don't think I would leave at all.
What makes you want to stay?
Suddenly, I'm weary. I would like to rest. I would like to be relieved of decision. I would like to be protected against uncertainty and accident. I would like to close my eyes at night and know that there are walls guarding my sleep.
But the piece you find here is the moon reflected on a dark lake. Strike the surface and you destroy it. Is that the kind of peace you want?
I want what everyone wants, to want nothing. These people have found contentment.
How do you know?
I have eyes to see.
So has Jeffrey. But he only sees what he wants to see. An excuse for not facing the future. Does Florence see that her child was taken from her? Does Fairy see what the mirror should tell her? No. They found refuge in an eggshell world where you don't belong. For you see clearly, I'm sure.
Then where do I belong?
In the world you can best serve. The impulse to live your life with courage was right. Go ahead with your memorial fund, and don't be betrayed by the illusion of contentment. The door is open for you. Make your peace with loneliness.
Oh, I'm glad you're still here. I finally thought of what I can give you.
Hannibal, not your violin.
Oh, no, you couldn't play it. But I do have a song that you can take with you wherever you go. Here's your song.